did this week?
Not too much different. I think, we were fortunate, like I said, to not be trailing early on with a couple of the chances we conceded. Maybe one of them was in an offside position, but it was close. And I just, looking back, we had 4 or 5 moments in transition where, over the course of the entire game where our decision-making limited us from getting some really good looks at goal. So the intensity of the game, I think the way the guys were challenged with Columbus's movements, with their ability to come off the line and still get, guys running in behind, that was challenging for our guys. So I think they did a pretty good job. But we have to accept that this is a good point. Of course, we want to win the game, but based on how it was played out, we should be happy with that and move on quickly to Minnesota.
Minnesota, they're 9th in the West, so it's really kind of fighting for that playoff position. Going down the stretch. What do you make of them? Does that bring anything different to your expectations for what they might bring?
Well, I think there's similarities just with new pieces and them finding their rhythm. So smaller sample size, but you see the impact that Yeboah is having up top. Pereira just getting into the mix with their group. Took a different shape to begin the St. Louis game, but then a shape, after the break that looked, more familiar to the Seattle and San Jose games. But they can adjust, much like Columbus, with their pieces and in game. If something's not working, you could see that they're ready to adapt. So over the next, I would say, 36 hours, we'll give a lot of information to the group to try to help prepare them for a relatively unfamiliar opponent.
Pat, if you could compare how the stretch run feels today to like this time last year when you guys were really running away with it, at least in my opinion. And today you've got Columbus nipping at your heels and you're really in a fight for seeding. Does it feel different on a game-to-game basis? Like, I know you guys will still manage it like one game at a time. You're probably not thinking ahead to Saturday, I'm sure, but does it feel like there's more pressure, more like immediacy to get the result at hand?
Of course. This time last year we were in Miami's position, trying to create as much separation as possible to secure a supporter shield. So I like that it's a different feeling and a different challenge for us with the current state of our group and where we're at. I think there's also just more moving parts and pieces to new additions and trying to find, consistency with, availability and incorporating new pieces to, help us, with this stretch run. So it certainly feels different, and I think it's good that we have to feel a little bit more pressure to try to secure a top seed.
But maybe less desperate than 22, and maybe is there some comfort in it?
We shouldn't feel desperation. We should just recognize that results at this stage and finding your form is going to be so important going into the playoffs. Because the reality is if we don't win games, we know we're a playoff team. But winning games to be confident, winning games to have a higher seed, to be playing, at home, all these things are important. So that part is certainly different.
So, like, getting your form right, finding your best 11, some people make that sound like it's catching lightning in a bottle, to use a cliche, or like it's laboratory chemistry, and if you get it wrong, your whole playoff run will be. But do you recall times in your career where, as a player, where it felt like
You're asking me to remember
where
some time ago.
You had some good runs on some really good teams. Some great runs. were there times when you felt like, we did that thing that everyone said, that everyone talks about, that kind of no one can describe, but we got it?
Yeah.
And, like, what went into that? Like, how did it happen? Maybe it didn't
Looking back, a little bit of both. I've been a part of teams where you had consistency with who was playing. You know, the stretch run into the playoffs and that rhythm helped our group with the relationships and the understanding and knowing how to win together. And then there was also moments where you have injuries at a crucial time, and you know you have unexpected players that step up in big moments. So it was a little bit of both, but for this group, we're trying to find our rhythm with having so many challenges, I would say, good challenges to finding consistency. It just hasn't happened for a variety of reasons, and I don't think that's a recipe for success over the next couple months. So we have to find consistency in our personnel, and guys need to be playing their best right now if we want to have a good run at it.
To that point, is there something about locking in on what you're doing specifically as a group versus maybe adapting to what is coming against an opponent, or do those things come hand in hand?
Hand in hand. Nothing will change moving into this stretch run as to how we approach the next game. You try to put a good emphasis on what's going to bring us success with how we attack and how we defend, but you have to understand, you know, what your opponent is going to bring to the game to know what the game is potentially going to look like and how you have success. So none of that changes. It's just recognizing that at this stage of the season, every team is, for the most part, fighting for something. And just like our last game, you know, the margins are going to be small as to what the results look like. And there's plenty of things that, you know, just from our last game we'll look at to, you know, both as a group and individually to see, you know, how we can improve certain aspects of our game to be just more consistent in our decision making and our ability to make more plays. Because I thought there was a lot of moments in this previous game that with the ball, the spaces that we thought we would have to attack, we didn't recognize or make the pass. And then, you know, on the defensive side of the ball, recognizing the right moments to press, recognizing the moments to just get organized and get our shape and understand that, you know, we can't win every ball. We have to delay at times to be tough to break down. So all of these things are a constant work in progress. But, you know, now's the time to get those details right.
And then I wanted to ask about Nico Joaquin. We got probably the largest sample size with the amount of minutes he got.
Yep.
What did you feel about his performance over the weekend? What has he brought to the group that liked or would like to see more?
I think his off the ball movement has been really effective. I don't think we've capitalized on that. There's been some moments where, you know, before Lucho was on the field, you know, with Nico, he makes some runs that I think Lucho probably finds him, and maybe others, you know, don't see those runs. And then there was still moments, you know, now with Lucho on the field where he's doing a good job of threatening the line or opening up space for his teammates, and then, like I said, finding the right pass and understanding the right decision to get us going to goal. We missed out on some of those things, but I think his movement has been good. Defensively, he's very aware of the game and how to position himself to help us, you know, get pressure to the ball. I think he's really alert in those moments, and I think that helped us to be pretty good defensively against Columbus. So the one moment in talking to him after was that transition moment where, you know, he's got Yuya and Kevin, and we have a good opportunity to get to goal. I think we got that moment wrong in finding the right pass, you know, where I think a shot gets blocked. So all of those things, much like we've seen with Kevin, it's a new player that you're trying to help get familiar with how we want to play and his teammates. And so some of those moments we miss out on, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
One more. And then I wanted to ask about London Agato coming in late in that game. You've got him a few times back to Leagues Cup. What have you seen from him recently, and why has he been the guy to call?
I thought there was a couple, weeks of training where he was improving on, decision making, the aggressiveness. I like his ability to, step off the line to play a high line. So he's gotten a few more minutes there, but I would say the little moments that, I wouldn't call them simple plays, but making the right decision. We foul at the end of that game where he can challenge the aerial duel in a better way. Those little things he's got to, improve on, because you don't want to be conceding a dangerous free kick late in the game because you don't time your challenge right. So, that was a takeaway as well. But he's done well for himself the last month or so.
With teenage, I know you said it wasn't really in the plans to get him time, but I guess with this being a midweek game and then another game Saturday, do you feel like, is that going to impact his ability to integrate, or do you feel like he's in a good spot now, kind of getting through that weekend to?
I wouldn't say he's in a good spot. He's only been a couple days, and we don't get a full week of training to really, let him see a normal build. But, we've pushed him a couple days now, more individually, and then today we'll have, the full group together for the first part of training, and then we'll push him and some others the remainder of training. But yeah, it's difficult because, we don't get more time and more space to see him work, but we'll try to, integrate him in a good way, both on the field and with some video. And then how we integrate him will just, that'll be dictated by where he's at physically and what the game looks like and how comfortable we feel putting him out there.
So at the center back position, you guys went from you needed depth. You have it now. It's impressive to think of what it could look like in 2025, especially in terms of the depth. Do you worry that there's too much depth and maybe guys won't want to compete?
It feels like we could.
I'm going to root those guys out anyway, but it's going to be a serious competition.
We could field a starting 11 of center backs. Well, we'll get through this season, and I'm sure with the numbers that we have, that there's going to be conversations about what makes the most sense for the group in 25. But we've added these pieces because we think it's important in the moment, but also it'll give us answers going into next year. So it's good competition. I don't think guys are going to stop competing. I would imagine that when you see more bodies coming in and more depth in certain positions, that if guys want to prove that they should be out there or a part of this group moving forward, that they're going to compete.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask about the FCC too?
Yeah.
Just because
Sure.
they qualified for the playoffs, pretty big deal for them.
Of course.
You've got guys obviously send down to that level. How important has that been for your guys to get that kind of experience, and then just to see that growth in that two teams?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, you can see, I'll just speak from 22, that the plan to try to improve the first team situation, but the long-term plan of saying, okay, how does the second team progress, academy? This has all been part of a bigger plan from Chris, and I think they've done an outstanding job of getting the right pieces in. Tyrone and his staff have continued to improve and do a good job with their roster and what's been provided for them, because it's not easy. That is a very difficult job to do when it's about development with an intent to win, but with, maybe not all the pieces in place. And now you see a lot of the pieces are in place, and they're at the top of the table and have already clinched a playoff spot. So it speaks to the growth. and the commitment to get the developmental aspect of our club right and in a better position. So watching the game last night, you just see the way that those guys were competing and stepping up in that moment to go win a game. They've done an outstanding job, and it's benefited our first team. It's benefited guys going down and helping them. It's benefited the guys that are down there that are being pushed every day and motivated by the fact that they're losing minutes sometimes to first-team players, and had a really good performance last night. So really pleased for Tyrone, the players, and the club that they get to play in meaningful games, as the season closes out here.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.